3, 2, 1. Hi there. This is our... Sorry. Hi there. That sounds so weird. I never remember what it is. 3210. Hi there. This is our Management 3210 group presentation on business communication framing. So let's introduce our group members. First, this is Madison, and we got Lorinda on the end. Lorinda, Aaron, and Sadiq, and I'm Jeff Stevenson. But you don't need to know my last name. So let's start off with what the heck is framing? Let's everyone step up to the side for a moment.
Just a little temptations.
So framing is communicating information by placing it into, within a field of meaning. So what the heck does that actually mean? Is that you choose how the information is presented. So you have all this data, this raw data, and you can turn it into information by changing how it's presented to people. So the place where this mostly comes in, the most is in journalism, because journalists are often given all these different facts about a certain issue or an event, and then they have to choose how to present it to the populace so that they can better retain the information. On to the next slide. So what actually does that mean? So that means, a lot of people given the same information, rational people given the same information should come to the same conclusion. That's rational thought theory. However, with framing, by presenting the information differently, you can actually change people's outcomes given the information. So if you frame things positively or negatively, depending on the person, they can take the same information and come to a different conclusion. The next slide. So basically what happened was a study, when this first came about and they realized that it's an actual thing that happens a lot, was a study where people were given positive outcomes and negative outcomes, and that's what comes in with positive and negative framing. So it was either you were given a chance to win everything or win some things, or lose everything or lose some things. And then it just depends on a person's risk management and how much risk they like, and that develops their frame of reference and how they would choose in a given situation. So again, given the same information, people make different choices based on the outcome. Last slide. And this is a great example of positive and negative framing. So on the one hand, you're asking for donations, and you say, if you donate, this cute little bunny will live happily forever, showing the positive sides that come with the choice. And then the other side, same thing again, same information. If you don't donate, this is the negative side. If you don't donate, this bunny may die or starve to death, that sort of thing, showing the negative sides of inaction. So again, the same information, just presented differently, affects people differently.
So we looked into Canadian Feed the Children to see how they messaged their charity in order to get donations and spread awareness for their cause. Basically, when you think of charity, you think of those sad infomercials with the kids starving in bad countries, and you see a lot of negative framing, a lot of negative words used. Canadian Feed the Children go an opposite direction in it. They use a lot of positive messaging. They have a positive look. When you go right onto the website, the first thing you see is a picture like that. A bunch of happy kids standing together. They look like they've eaten, they look well fed. And you see a lot of positive words. Instead of hunger, for example, they always use the word food security. So you never see something like suffering, anything like that. You think of good thoughts, food security is good, right? And when you go into their video, which is kind of like a commercial for them on their website, you see things like this. So this is pretty much just a tree that's showing how a person like you can help the charity and help the children in third world countries. So you see the words increasing, improving, and supporting. Again, positive verbs that make you feel good and make you feel like you can actually do something good in the world rather than feeling bad. The only time you actually see negative framing on the website is when you go into the individual countries. That's when they'll start giving you statistics about negative things that are happening in these third world countries. And with that, I will pass it off to Lorinda.
So looking at the framing literature, we found that stories are an important part of framing. So looking at the CFTC website, we looked at the various stories that they tell, and one of the stories they tell is about their initiatives. So on the Ethiopia page, they have the agricultural training program. So that's providing farmers with seeds and tools to improve their agricultural practices. So by providing these services, they're able to improve their agricultural practices, as well as increase the nutrition of their food and make sure that they're well fed. The other story that the website talked about was on their blog. So their blog talks about how their initiatives have been implemented and what effects that the initiatives are having on the countries that they're involved in. The one blog that is up above is the Hope Flows in Gallon and Darrow. So this was talking about how Feed the Children brought fresh drinking water to the village. So this reduced the riskiness of going to get water. It also saves time because it was an hour round trip to go get water. Now it only takes a couple minutes to go and get the water. So this really helps to increase food production. So crops, to water the crops, it's easier to go get the water, as well as food preparation. The women don't have to constantly go get water all the time. They can stay up closer to home and work and prepare the food. Next slide. So research conducted about framing found that a positive frame is most effective with storytelling, whereas a negative frame is more effective with statistical evidence. So Feed the Children uses positive framing, like I discussed previously with the stories and how they're trying to improve food security and make living easier for these people. Also, they talk about negative framing using statistical evidence. So with the statistical evidence, these are some of the examples on the website. So 1 in 9 people in the world will go to bed hungry tonight. More than 5 million children under 5 die in developing countries every year due to malnutrition and hunger-related diseases. As well, Ethiopia is one of the most food insecure countries, even though they have a large food producer. So these just kind of drill in the fact of how negative. The negatives of food insecurity and hunger. So I'll pass it off to Madison to talk about framing.
All right, thanks, Linda. So Lorinda and Sadiq talked a lot about how Canadian Feed the Children, the fundraising, uses framing to their advantage, to frame the idea that children and people are going to bed hungry. But as university students, how does that affect you? And the answer is, framing affects everyone because it's everywhere. Framing simply cannot be avoided. It's seen in newspapers, magazines, social media. Even advertisements frame their products to evoke certain emotions so that you'll buy their products. Looking at the next slide, Volkswagen, this is an example that Volkswagen uses. And comically, they actually recognize that they themselves are framing in this advertisement. So as you can see, they're selling a car, and in the car, this guy has a baseball cap and a hat and sunglasses, and he looks cool driving this new black car. However, they show the guy standing outside the car, and he's got a big pot belly. He's not the most attractive guy, and this is just playing off the recognition that companies do use framing to make their products look more attractive than they really are. So in most advertisements, you wouldn't see this guy standing in the background. You would just see him in the car being cool. But this kind of just shows how advertisers frame their products to only show you half the story or from a certain perspective to make it seem better so you'll buy their products. Framing is also seen in newspapers. The news media is probably the biggest culprit for framing ideas. They not only have control over what you see, but they also have control over how you see it. Being all business students, I'm sure that you guys are all familiar with the Keystone Pipeline. So looking at, and it's a very controversial topic, some people are very pro-Keystone Pipeline, others are very anti-Keystone Pipeline. So what we did is we went through a few newspaper articles and we pulled out key phrases. So the newspaper articles that were pro Keystone Pipeline framed the pipeline as a job creator. They used phrases such as energy independence, well-paying jobs, and economic benefits to frame the pipeline as being an economic go-to great idea. Those that were anti-Keystone Pipeline framed the pipeline as an environmental threat. They said it was a threat of climate change, a pipe-eating, planet-cooking, water-fouling goo. They also called it dirty energy. And this just goes to show that it's the same concept of pipeline. However, based on different perspectives, the news was able to frame it in a way that kind of drew to different people's perspectives. And Aaron will discuss how it further pertains to you.
So that's enough about how framing affects you. This is more about how you can use framing to your advantage. Framing is for leaders. It allows managers or leaders to bring everyone together. It's easy to do this. You can say, instead of, you know what, team, we really need to work harder or else you're all fired. Instead, you say, team, we really need to increase our performance. I think we can really get this achieved. This helps to maintain team objectives. As long as your leader is being a leader and instead of cracking the whip, then you can effectively lead the team and have them have more of a positive attitude. This enables the team to overcome obstacles more quickly and enables the leader and everyone to feel better about themselves in the end. And this can severely strengthen the leadership values within the entire community. So here is exactly how to frame your issue. First, you have to identify the audience. If you're going to work with a young crowd versus a mature crowd, you don't want to use cartoons for 80-year-old women in a nursing home. Instead, maybe keep the cartoons for the young children in kindergarten. Next, you have to identify the issue. Are you trying to get everyone to work together and achieve one goal, or are you just trying to decide what everyone wants for lunch? You really have to know what the scenario is. Next, you want to decide how you frame it. Do you want to use negative framing at the beginning, highlight the facts, get everyone's attention, and then in the end, you can use positive framing to call for action or get everyone to really come together and make a decision. And then, it's as simple as that. You just frame it. The easiest way to do that is you reword it. Make it seem positive or negative. It really depends on what you need to do. And that's how you can use framing for yourself.
Woo! That was good.
Excellent.
Alright.
That was 13.